Chapter 1009. Behind him, a glittering spear appeared. Rinchen was struck with an overwhelming sense of danger. He let out a howl, the inscription on his body letting off a blinding glow as all of his energy formed a square-shaped barrier around him. At the same time, the dragon's head floating behind Wilbur's body had stopped chanting and opened its eyes. The dimensional arrow glittered, piercing through Rinchen's energy barrier and his body. Rinchen's expression flashed with disbelief as he stared at Wilbur in shock. Wilbur smiled back at him, calm as ever. Rinchen's energy barrier began to crumble. The inscription covering his body dimmed as well. The terrifying spirit pressure coming off him disappeared at the same time. The spot on Rinchen's body where the dimensional arrow pierced through began to glitter, then faded away. How could you be so strong? Rinchen asked, nothing but agonized and confused. Yet Wilbur merely continued to smile calmly. Honestly, Wilbur wanted to tell Rinchen just why he was so powerful. There was a huge sense of glee and excitement that came about with beating a powerful opponent. It was a shame that he was still shrouded in the minute-long effect of the dragon's safe haven. Its effect would protect him from all harm, but he would not be able to move or speak while it was in effect. Rinchen's body began to fade away in large chunks, disappearing into dust. The only thing that remained was the crystal sternum that fell to the ground once he was gone. The effect of the dragon's safe haven wore off, and Wilbur smiled. Rinchen was indeed the strongest opponent Wilbur had met. That absolute power of his had even won over Wilbur's dragon powers and spiritual energy. Upon realizing just how powerful Rinchen was, Wilbur had planned his strategy. That was to kill Rinchen with the dimensional arrow. Yet, even summoning the dimensional arrow in Dragonspeak would take some time. The dimensional arrow would also drain Wilbur of all his spiritual energy, and he would not be able to fight after that anymore. Thus, he had to make sure that his dimensional arrow was going to work. Wilbur was not certain if Rinchen had other powers. If Rinchen happened to have powers similar to the dragon's safe haven that the dimensional arrow could not work on or kill him, Wilbur would be in grave danger. Thus, Wilbur had to make sure that the dimensional arrow would strike Rinchen in a situation where he was completely unprepared. That was why Wilbur had pretended to fight with all his might to draw Rinchen's attention, before activating the dragon's safe haven to make sure that he would be unharmed before casting the dimensional arrow to kill Rinchen. All of that was orchestrated to make sure that Rinchen would die for sure. Rinchen might have had other ways of protecting his life that he had not been able to use in time, or he had reached his limit and had nothing else up his sleeve. None of that mattered anymore, though. Wilbur had succeeded, and Rinchen was dead. The next second, Wilbur picked up the crystal sternum to take a closer look at it. The glow of the crystal sternum was a lot duller now, as Rinchen had absorbed a large amount of its power at the very last second.